You drink water every day, you've been told it's pure, clean, safe. That's not true. Every glass you drink carries something ancient, something that's been here longer than mountains, longer than continents. And it's slowly rewriting the chemistry of your body in ways science only started understanding a decade ago. Let me show you what I mean. In 2013, a research team in Norway placed 2 identical plants in 2 identical rooms. Same light, same temperature, same soil. The only difference? One plant got distilled water, pure H₂O, nothing else. The other got tap water from Oslo. The plant with pure water died in 3 weeks. The one with tap water is still growing. Now, you might think that's because tap water has minerals, calcium, magnesium, things plants need, and you'd be half right. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is what else was in that water, the part nobody talks about. Deuterium. It's hydrogen's heavier cousin. Same electron, same chemical behavior, but with an extra neutron in its nucleus. And it's in every single drop of water on Earth. About 150 parts per million. Doesn't sound like much. But your body processes roughly 2.5 liters of water a day. That means every 24 hours you're taking in about 375 milligrams of deuterium. Now here's where it gets strange. Your cells don't know the difference between regular hydrogen and deuterium, not at first. They use both to build DNA, proteins, enzymes, but deuterium is 10% heavier, and that tiny mass difference changes how molecules vibrate, how they fold, how they break apart. It's like replacing every 10th screw in a car engine with one that's slightly thicker. The engine still runs, but the timing shifts, friction increases. Over years, over decades, things start to wear down in ways they weren't designed to. Scientists in Hungary spent 15 years studying this. They took mice and gave them water with half the normal deuterium content. Those mice lived 20% longer. Their tumors grew slower. Their mitochondria, the power plants inside every cell, worked better. The control group, normal lifespan, normal cancer rates, same genetics, same food, same environment. The only variable was the weight of hydrogen in their water. Now, I need to be clear about something. This doesn't mean water is poison. You need water to live. But what we call water is never just H₂O. It's a solution, a mixture. And some of those mixtures are better for biological systems than others. Your body contains about 42 liters of water. In that water, there are roughly 6.3 grams of deuterium. That's about the weight of a nickel. Doesn't sound significant. But remember, this isn't sitting in a jar somewhere. It's woven into the molecular structure of your cells, your DNA, the proteins that keep you alive. Every time a cell divides, it copies its DNA. And if that DNA contains deuterium instead of regular hydrogen in critical spots, the copying process slows down, just by a fraction. But cells divide trillions of times in a lifetime. Those fractions add up. There's a laboratory in Russia, outside Moscow, where they've been depleting deuterium from water since the 1990s. They use it in cancer therapy. The idea is simple. Give patients water with 25% less deuterium than normal. Their healthy cells adapt. But cancer cells, which divide faster and are already under metabolic stress, struggle. The results aren't miraculous. This isn't a cure. But patients who drink deuterium-depleted water alongside conventional treatment show slower tumor growth, better recovery rates, and here's the part that keeps me up at night. We've known deuterium exists since 1931. Harold Urey won a Nobel Prize for discovering it. But for almost a century, we treated it as chemically identical to hydrogen. We assumed the mass difference didn't matter. That biology was flexible enough to handle it. We were wrong. Water near the equator has more deuterium than water near the poles. Why? Because deuterium is heavier. When ocean water evaporates, regular hydrogen escapes into the atmosphere more easily. Deuterium stays behind. Then when clouds move toward the poles and rain falls over and over, each cycle removes a little more deuterium. By the time you get to glacial meltwater in Iceland or Antarctica, the deuterium concentration drops to about 130 parts per million. That's 15% less than tropical seawater. Now here's where this becomes personal. There's a valley in Pakistan, Hunza Valley. People there regularly live past 100. They have lower rates of heart disease, lower cancer rates. And for decades, researchers tried to figure out why. They studied diet, genetics, lifestyle, all important factors. But then someone tested the water. It comes from glacial melt, high in the Karakoram Mountains. The deuterium content, about 135 parts per million, 10% lower than most drinking water in Europe or North America. We've had the technology to measure deuterium in water since the 1950s. We've known it varies by location. We've known it affects chemical reaction rates. But we didn't connect those dots to human health until researchers started looking at cancer metabolism in the early 2000s. 70 years, we had the data and didn't ask the right questions. Let me tell you what happens inside a cell when deuterium replaces hydrogen in a critical molecule. Take DNA. The double helix is held together by hydrogen bonds. Tiny electromagnetic connections between base pairs. Normally these bonds vibrate at a specific frequency. They break and reform thousands of times per second as proteins read the genetic code. But if deuterium is in those bonds, the vibration slows down. The bond becomes slightly stronger, slightly harder to break. Doesn't sound bad, right? Stronger bonds should be good. Except DNA needs to be flexible, proteins need to unzip it, copy it, repair it. When those bonds are too strong, the whole process becomes less efficient. Errors accumulate, mutations slip through, and mutations are what cause cancer. In 2018, a team at the University of Washington analyzed cancer cells from 500 patients. They measured the deuterium content in the tumor tissue, and they found something striking. Tumors had higher deuterium concentrations than surrounding healthy tissue. Not by a lot, about 3% higher, but consistent across different cancer types: breast, lung, colon, brain. The cancer cells were actively concentrating deuterium. But here's what we do know. When you reduce deuterium in a cancer patient's drinking water, their tumors respond. Not always, not dramatically, but statistically, measurably, they slow down. There are clinical trials happening right now in Hungary, in Russia, in South Korea. Small trials, preliminary results, but the data is pointing in the same direction. Deuterium matters. Let me show you something nobody's measuring. When a storm moves inland from the ocean, the first rain that falls has high deuterium. As the storm continues, each successive rainfall gets lighter. By the time that storm reaches the mountains and dumps its last bit of moisture, the deuterium content has dropped by 30%. Rivers fed by that mountain rain, low deuterium. Wells drawing from ancient aquifers under those mountains, even lower. But rivers that start near the coast, high deuterium. And cities built on those rivers, New York, London, Shanghai, their tap water carries more heavy hydrogen than water in Zurich or Denver. Nobody planned this. Nobody thought about it when they built those cities. But millions of people are drinking different water, isotopically speaking, based purely on geography and luck. And that difference might be shaving years off some lives while adding years to others. In 2015, researchers in Japan tracked 1,200 people over 40 years. They measured deuterium levels in drinking water across different regions. Then they correlated that with health outcome. People drinking water with deuterium below 140 parts per million had a 12% lower all-cause mortality rate than than people drinking water above 155 parts per million. 12%. Over an 80-year lifespan, that's nearly a decade. Same country, same healthcare system, same genetics, roughly. The only major variable was the isotopic signature of their water. We think of water as universal. 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. Pure, simple. The same everywhere. But it's not. Water is local, specific. Every source has a unique isotopic fingerprint, and your body responds to those differences even if your conscious mind doesn't notice. But wait, there's a deeper pattern here. The deuterium concentration in Earth's water has changed over geological time. 4 billion years ago, when life first emerged, Earth's oceans had less deuterium than they do now. Why? Because deuterium accumulates. When hydrogen escapes from the atmosphere into space, which it does constantly, regular hydrogen leaves faster, deuterium stays behind. Over billions of years, Earth's water has been slowly getting heavier, and life evolved in that lighter water. The first cells, the first proteins, the first DNA. They were all built in an environment with maybe 20% less deuterium than we have now, and evolution optimized biological systems for those conditions. Then the deuterium content increased, and life adapted, but not perfectly. There are still molecular processes in your body that work better with less deuterium. Echoes of an ancient chemistry we've never fully left behind. We talk about evolution as if it's perfect adaptation. It's not. It's good enough adaptation. Life doesn't optimize for longevity. It optimizes for reproduction. Once you've passed your genes on, evolution doesn't care if you live to 100 or die at 40. But you care. And the isotopic composition of your water might be one of the invisible factors determining which one happens. Now, let me tell you something that sounds like science fiction, but isn't. There's a proposal, serious, peer-reviewed, published in scientific journals, to reduce deuterium in municipal water supplies. Not to 0, that would be dangerous, but to 120 parts per million, 20% lower than average. The technology exists. You can remove deuterium through distillation, electrolysis, or catalytic exchange. It's energy intensive, it's expensive, but it's possible. We spend trillions on healthcare treating diseases after they happen. What if we could prevent some of those diseases by changing the water? It sounds too simple, and maybe it is. Biology is complicated. There are no magic bullets. But deuterium isn't a magic bullet. It's a fundamental parameter, like temperature or pH. And we already control those in drinking water. Why not regulate deuterium for health? So what do you do with this information? You can't stop drinking water. You can't avoid deuterium entirely. And unless you're wealthy or live in the right geography, you probably can't access low deuterium water regularly. But you can be aware. You can know that the water you drink isn't neutral. It's not just hydration. It's chemistry. And that chemistry has consequences. We've been drinking water since before we were human. Our ancestors drank from rivers, from lakes, from rain. For millions of years, the deuterium content of that water shaped our biology in ways we're only now beginning to understand. And we never noticed. We never had to. Evolution handled it. Our bodies adapted as best they could. But now we have a choice. We have the knowledge. We have the technology. We can measure deuterium. We can reduce it. We can optimize it. The question is whether we will. The universe is nothing but details. And the tiniest difference, 1 neutron in a hydrogen nucleus, can be the difference between a long life and a short one. Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." But we're also a way for the cosmos to experience time, to age, to accumulate damage and entropy, and finally return to dust. Deuterium is part of that process. It's the universe slowly winding us down, one heavy hydrogen atom at a time. But here's what I find beautiful about that. We're not powerless. We're not just passengers. We can look at the chemistry of our own bodies and say, maybe we can do this better. We can take the materials the universe gives us and arrange them more carefully. That's what life has always done. It takes chaos and builds order. It takes randomness and creates pattern. And now, for the first time, we can do it consciously. We can choose the water we drink. We can understand why it matters. We can pass that knowledge to the next generation and maybe, just maybe, give them a few more years, a few more decades, a few more chances to look up at the stars and wonder. Because in the end, that's what this is about. Not just living longer, but having more time to be curious, to ask questions, to understand the universe that made us. Deuterium is killing you, slowly, invisibly, one molecule at a time. But knowing that, really understanding it, makes you a little less vulnerable, a little more aware, a little more capable of shaping your own fate. And that's not nothing. That's everything. The water you drink tomorrow will become part of you. It will build your cells. It will carry your thoughts. It will determine in some small way how long you last. Choose it wisely, not because you're afraid, but because you understand. And understanding is the closest thing we have to freedom.